So a leaked Pentagon assessment is making the rounds. And what it says is, well, it's pretty shocking. It basically reports that in war games simulating a conflict over Taiwan, the United States keeps losing. The reason why isn't what you'd think, though. It's not about troop quality or tactics. It's something much more fundamental. Let's break down what's really going on.
Yeah, you're reading that right. This is the core conclusion, the big flashing headline from this assessment. I mean, think about it. For decades, the entire story has been about American military dominance. This statement just flips that whole idea on its head. It's the kind of thing that makes you stop and ask, how on earth is this possible? And that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. Look, if you appreciate clear, evidence-based analysis like this, please do us a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It truly is the best way to support our work and help us keep making these explainers.
So, where does this startling conclusion even come from? It's really important to understand that this isn't just one bad day at the office, you know? It's not the result of a single war game that went wrong. It's actually a summary of many, many simulations.
It all comes from a highly classified document, known in defense circles as the Overmatch brief. The best way to think of it is like the Pentagon's own internal report card, summing up all its homework. And let's just say the grade it's giving itself is not good. It points directly to what it calls structural disadvantages.
And this, right here, is the crucial point. The brief argues that the U.S. isn't losing these simulations because of its soldiers, sailors, or pilots. Not at all. It's losing because of four massive, unyielding factors. These are issues that bravery and superior training alone just can't solve. They're fundamental problems baked right into the strategic landscape. So let's tackle the first one.
For over 70 years, if you wanted to see a symbol of American power, you'd look for an aircraft carrier. They're iconic, but according to this assessment, that entire era of dominance is facing its most serious challenge ever.
Carrier strike groups are basically floating fortresses, able to project air power anywhere in the world. They've been the absolute centerpiece of U.S. strategy for as long as any of us can remember. But in these Taiwan war games, they go from being the most powerful piece on the board to one of the very first casualties. And this dramatic flip is because of a concept known as A2/AD. A2/AD stands for Anti-Access/Area Denial. The easiest way to picture it is as a giant defensive bubble. China has spent decades meticulously building this bubble with one primary goal: to keep U.S. forces, and especially its carriers, far, far away from its coastline. And this bubble is armed with a whole new generation of really specialized and dangerous weapons.
We're talking about a whole menu of threats here. You've got the so-called carrier killers, anti-ship ballistic missiles like the DF-21D that plunge down from the upper atmosphere. You've got sea-skimming cruise missiles like the YJ-18 that can be launched from ships and planes. And then you have the newest nightmare, hypersonic weapons, which travel at such incredible speeds that they just shrink the reaction time for U.S. defenses down to almost nothing.
And this isn't just a problem for older ships. The assessment concludes that even the newest, most advanced, $13 billion supercarrier, the USS Ford, can't survive inside this A2AD bubble. So when your main tool for projecting power can't even get close enough to join the fight, the entire strategic equation just changes completely.
Beyond the threat to carriers, the assessment brings up some even more basic, unchangeable realities. We're talking about the sheer numbers of missiles involved and the simple, brutal facts of geography.
This number, it says it all. Taiwan is just 130 kilometers. That's about 80 miles from mainland China. It sits deep, deep inside that dense missile and air coverage zone we just talked about. The report calls this the single most unforgiving variable in the whole equation.
For the U.S., on the other hand, the distances are just enormous. We're talking about operating across the vast Pacific Ocean. It's not just about getting ships there, it's about keeping them fueled and armed. Every ship or plane that's lost is thousands of miles from being replaced, putting an incredible strain on logistics. And it's not just the ships at sea that are the targets.
The war games show that in the opening hours of a conflict, thousands of Chinese missiles would rain down on critical land bases like Kadena in Japan and Andersen in Guam. The goal isn't just to destroy planes on the ground, but to crater the runways, burn the fuel depots, and knock out command centers. I mean, your advanced F-35 is just an expensive museum piece if it can't take off. This leads to a very simple but decisive economic problem. Look at the cost of missile warfare. The defensive interceptors the U.S. uses can cost millions of dollars apiece.
The offensive missiles they're trying to shoot down, far cheaper, and they could be launched in huge numbers. In the simulations, the U.S. exhausts its entire finite supply of these expensive defenders in just a matter of days. You just can't win a war of attrition when your opponent's bullets are a fraction of the cost of your shields.
But get this, according to the assessment, the war wouldn't even begin with missiles. The very first shots fired would be completely silent and totally invisible, happening in space and cyberspace.
The simulations suggest a paralyzing opening sequence. First, a cyber attack, activating pre-positioned malware to cripple power grids and communications. At the same time, a space attack, with anti-satellite weapons blinding or destroying crucial GPS and reconnaissance satellites. The result of this 1-2 punch is command paralysis. U.S. forces are left effectively deaf, dumb, and blind before a single physical shot is even fired. Now, even if U.S. forces could somehow withstand that initial storm, the assessment points to another long-term grinding challenge, a major disparity in industrial capacity and wartime production.
It really comes down to two completely different production models. The U.S. approach focuses on a small number of highly complex, expensive platforms, silver bullets like carriers and stealth bombers that take years to replace. China's approach, on the other hand, is built around mass, redundancy, and rapid replacement. Its shipyards can churn out destroyers at a record pace, and its factories can replace missiles in weeks. In a long conflict, the ability to absorb losses and replace them quickly becomes a decisive advantage.
So when you combine all of this, the vulnerable carriers, the tyranny of distance, the missile saturation, a crippling first strike, and an industrial imbalance, you start to arrive at the really uncomfortable conclusion of the Overmatch brief. And this isn't just about the U.S. not spending enough money. The U.S. spends a much larger percentage of its massive economy on defense. But the assessment finds that overall spending doesn't guarantee a win in a specific location. Things like proximity, missile density, and industrial scale can create local superiority, allowing a force to win where it matters most, even with a smaller overall budget.
And this leads us to the final, unavoidable question posed by the brief itself. Does the current U.S. force structure, the things we're actually buying, like more large carriers and more manned aircraft, does it reflect the realities that our own secret war games are revealing? The assessment seems to suggest a dangerous disconnect between what the simulations are telling us and how we're preparing for the future.
That's a lot to take in. Thank you so much for joining us on the Global WarWatch Network. Please, if you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe. We really want to hear what you think, so please share your thoughts in the comments section below and join the conversation on our social media channels. All the links are right there in the description. Thanks for watching.